So I love orchids. I think a lot of people love orchids because they're beautiful, they're gentle plants. And I think why people appreciate orchids is because they know the history behind what it takes, or the effort. They know the effort of what it takes to get an orchid to bloom. And that beauty, that delicate beauty, requires a lot of care, and it's something that it's valued, it's prized, it's appreciated, which I think is amazing. And people know that they don't know. They assume that beauty is fleeting and it only lasts for a few weeks and then it's gone and it's dead. And the idea of getting an orchid to rebloom is an impossibility, that it is something that cannot be done under normal circumstances and requires a tremendous amount of equipment and greenhouses and all this effort. So why bother? And the reason why I'm saying that is because that's the farthest thing from the truth, because these flowers that are blooming aren't ones I bought from the store. They're orchids that I've actually got to rebloom, some of them multiple times over the last 7 or 8 years. And that said, I think my dedication to my orchids is a testament, is a metaphor for the Wong Way and how I've lived my life for the past decade plus. And here's the story behind these, is that, like I said, everyone knows how difficult it is to keep an orchid alive, let alone get it to rebloom. And I don't think that I have a green thumb. Well, I didn't think I had a green thumb, but it's one of these things where I knew amateur horticulture, being an amateur horticulturist, being an amateur plant lover is something. There's tons of resources you can do your own research and learn about things, as long as you have patience. And so sometime after 2017, after my mom had moved into her apartment, after she sold her house that she raised her entire family in, and started a life on her own after my father passed, I remember and knowing how much she loves orchids, and I would bring her an orchid to brighten up her apartment. And at some point between then and 2017 and 2019, I decided, you know what, Will, on top of the 10 million other things that I was doing, what would it take to try to get one of these things to rebloom? And so I, as much as I want to say, I did a lot of research. I did minimal research, but it was one of these things where what I knew had to be done, it was a waiting game and it was a patience game. And what I sought out to do was, what I was read and what I was told is, once the flower loses its petals, it goes into a dormant stage, and it takes months of constant care of something that is seemingly dead to get it to rebloom. I'm talking months and months and months and months. And that kind of patience, that kind of wherewithal is extremely, extremely rare. Most people will not put in that kind of effort, especially to have a plant just sitting there seemingly dead, and you're watering it every week and trying in the hopes to make it a beautiful thing months later. So my first attempt at doing this, it took, I want to say, at least 9 months of weekly watering. Sometimes I forgot, but a fairly consistent amount of watering, a small amount. And that took discipline to not overwater it. And sure enough, one day I walked past this plant and I looked at it and I'm like, it looks different. And then I saw some buds and I realized that's what looks different about it. And then that was the moment I realized all of those months of just constant work, where it didn't seem like it was going to go anywhere and you're going to end up throwing it in the trash, I realized, oh, wow, well, I think that might end up being a flower. And sure enough, a few months later, it started to flower. And I remember telling my mom when I went to go see her for lunch that, hey, Mom, I think I'm doing it. And she's like, there's no way you got an orchid to rebloom. I'm like, I don't know, Mom. And so sure enough, a few weeks later, I brought it back to her and it had started to bloom. And one of these plants is that original one that I did, because my success rate with getting orchids to rebloom is really high. I've only thrown out a couple, and they weren't from that original batch. But that said, my orchid project, my orchid obsession, is a metaphor for everything I've done these past 10 years of as far as the Wong Way is my fitness and doing things, achieving things when I was told it was either impossible or, man, that's a lot of work and good luck with that, because your chances are it's not going to go anywhere. But like that very first plant, I stuck with it. I had a process, I had a plan, and I stuck with it. And I didn't see any tangible benefits of it for months. And then all of a sudden, those gains started to come. And to that, a lot of these plants now are, again, from that original batch that I bought and got to rebloom and would bring back to my mom and let her enjoy the flowers. And I would take them home and get them to rebloom and bring them back to her. But some of these now new ones are ones that were given to her as gifts while she was in the hospital before she passed. And so with that, these have a tremendous amount of sentimental value to me now, because it's this, I'd like to think, a beautiful idea of the memory of my mother, keeping the memory of my mother alive, and it's a labor of love keeping these alive. And I look forward to seeing these rebloom over and over and over again for the next few years, for as long as I can. And that's the thing with your health, is like when you get those gains, when you get that moment when you're like, wow, I just can't believe I lifted that, I went that fast, or accomplish whatever goal, or like you finish that 2.5K, you cross that finish line. It's those little victories that add up, and they keep you going. And for me, with the flowers, it's just seeing that bud pop up, start to pop out of the stem, and then realize if I keep at it, it's going to keep on growing, and it's going to keep on growing until it's a beautiful flower. So thanks for watching my view on what the Wong Way is and how it pertains to raising orchids. Don't give up, get a process, and to hell with everyone else that tells you it's not possible, because anything is possible if you put your nose to the grindstone and you work at it.